What's up, nerds? Welcome back. Today I'm talking about the Green Lantern Annual, where we see Jessica Cruz apparently becomes a Yellow Lantern. Alright, so going into this, when I heard Jessica Cruz was a Yellow Lantern, my first thought was, why? Because it didn't seem to fit. I wasn't sure how exactly they were going to go about that. And I mean, what we see here, okay, I'll accept it. I'll take it. So let's just kind of get into what we actually have here because we see we're on New Korrigar, obviously, and we're starting out with Sinestro, who sees someone coming his way. They appear to be Yellow Lanterns. So they come in, and it's actually revealed to be Jessica, but she also has some of his actual Yellow Lanterns with her as well. So she's bringing them back to him, and he's saying, I did not expect to see you in chains. He's talking to like his Yellow Lanterns, and he says, Lo, Ugai, Lissa Drac, you especially. He's like, and what do we have here? So that's where he looks over at Jessica, and we can see that she looks like she's about to like pass out or whatever, where she's just barely handling it. So I mean, right off the bat, we're already getting the sense that she knows how to wield the fear power, but she doesn't know how to control it. And then we actually get that kind of sealed here because he wants to know like why she has the ring and everything and why she actually has like a few of them, and then as we can see she also still has her Green Lantern ring like on the necklace and everything. So he's telling her to explain yourself, and she says, I'm Jessica Cruz, Green Lantern of Sector 2814. He says, former Green Lantern, you mean? Because if you remember, the Green Lantern Corps has been destroyed again. And then she says, I am returning these prisoners to your custody. She says, and under core bylaw, he says, yes, I believe I was there when that was written. Anything to say for yourself, Drax? And she just says, I did not surrender to this coward. So Jessica tells her, stay down, witch. And she says, you say witch like it's an insult. So this is where she finally like makes her move. She pulls on the chain or whatever that she has and manages to like break it pretty much. And then she uses it against Jessica as well, because then she's able to like kind of take back some of the control of her own power using, as you can see, like the tattoos that are all over her body, which I believe was like the story or something, right? I don't know. But I know she's a witch. I know that, and she's actually very proud of it. So she says, you have much to learn about Fear Child, and this is where she actually tries. At first, Jessica does try to like put up a little bit of a defense. You can see she like makes a little bit of a shield to kind of like stop these projectiles she throws at her, but it's not enough. So she tells her, let me teach you. And then we see like they go on with the fight. I will say that this fight was actually done pretty well. The usage of the powers and everything, and it's all very beautifully drawn. Lissa actually looks pretty damn hot. I'm not gonna lie. So anyway, we get this where she like turns them into snakes, and she's telling her like, see how the fear can turn back on you, and it can like coil you up or like coil you in itself or whatever, like a snake. She says, this power is a hungry thing. You have to feed its flames. I wonder, little lantern, when all of your fears are burned away, what will be left? So Sinestro steps in and tells her, leave her intact, Lissa, unless you're afraid of the competition. I think she shows promise. And then he tells her to rest easy, and he tells her welcome home. So then she like passes out, and then we get this whole little thing where she's just kind of unconscious, and she's talking about how lately she hasn't been, or she's never been much of a dreamer, but that lately she only has nightmares. But that she's saying the thing is that they don't scare her at all. And she's like, isn't that weird? A billion little voices whisper, and then we can actually see like one of the shadows comes up and whispers in her ear. And it's saying, let us show you something beautiful. And then it like blows out the candle or whatever. So she's saying, let us show you something horrifying. All those voices whispering to me from the dark. And it sounds like a lullaby. But then I wake up and I'm all alone. So she wakes up in this like room, which honestly just looks like, I mean, except for I guess no, even those lamps. I'm pretty sure you can probably find lamps like that. This just looks like a hotel room, like I don't know, somewhere in Japan or something. Maybe somewhere here in America, but not anywhere near me. So she's saying, or she's thinking to herself, no need to worry, Lantern. Oh no, this is Sinestro. No need to worry, Lantern Cruz. No one will accost you here. We have only reclaimed the three rings you've been safeguarding. Your effects and other jewelry, the Green Lantern ring, are of no interest to me. Feel free to come and go as you please. You are not imprisoned. Indeed, we have little use for cells and shackles here. on New Corrigar, they would prove redundant. So yeah, and then we even get this shot of where like her seeing one of these sentry ships or whatever that's just kind of watching the city because if you remember, Sinestro is an authoritarian, so he has a very firm control on New Corrigar. But I mean, it seems to work for them, right? Kind of like Doctor Doom and Latveria. So, but like he said, I mean, putting people in cages here would be kind of redundant. The whole damn planet is kind of one. So, anyway, he said, when you have composed yourself, report to my panopticon at the city center. We have a great deal to discuss, I think. These are dark times for the universe, but I am building a bulwark against that darkness. I am bringing bright, shining order to every corner of the galaxy, one candle at a time. So she does actually go when she goes to meet him. And then she shows up. She says, and here I was worried that I had the wrong address. He says, ah, human wit. How little I have missed it. And he's like, still, you held your own against my second in command, even after days of sustained space travel. Perhaps you've earned a little impertinence. Now come here. I have something for you. So he decides to go ahead and like actually give her a ring as well and a lantern. And she says that fight between me and Drac wasn't about proving anything. I'm here to return the ring. He says, does it frighten you? So he's like, no need to lie. You should be frightened. I've been afraid of them since the first. A healthy respect for the power you were born to wield. So she's like, spare me. I don't get off on scaring other people. And he says, neither do I. Do you think this power's value lies only in the fear it can inflict? I am not a sadist. I'm an altruist. All I've ever sought is peace, and the power to bring it. You see horror in a galaxy without Green Lanterns. I see opportunity. Yes, terror burns across space like a signal fire, and my lanterns seek it out. Imagine peacekeepers with no need to impose their will. Imagine a universal primordial power, understood by good and evil alike. Control not through brute strength, but through empathy. So she's saying, like, I've spent most of my life afraid of what I can't do, but when I hold this ring, that all goes away, and I'm more terrified of what I can. No, all I want is to go home. He says, a pity. When I do assign a lantern to Sector 2814, you can return that ring you can turn that ring over to them. But at the moment it's the only means of transport I can offer you. So she's like, you're not giving me a choice, are you? He says, consider it a necessary evil. So yeah, I guess they don't well, I'm pretty sure they probably do have like a ship somewhere that's capable, but if he's saying I'm not gonna give you anything other than the ring, so yeah, that's all you got. Anyway, she says, point A to point B, that's all this is. He says, of course, Lantern Cruz, there's no point in being so willful. You're not a Green Lantern anymore. So this is where she's like flying off. She's like, God, what does she call him? A smug dick or something like that? So she's flying away, and then all of a sudden she decides, you know what? I need to try and like actually take control of this because she's saying, it takes me hours to travel light years. The ring doesn't whisper dark temptations or power fantasies. Not until I can see our solar system on the horizon. And then I remember. So that's when she starts remembering like all of the other lanterns. She says, hell, everyone on Earth, everyone in the whole sector. No power battery, no light. They must be terrified. So that's when she finally taps into the power of the ring. She says, show me. So now she's actually tapping into like the actual, I guess, just fear spectrum itself. And so she's saying, and it does. Like a sixth sense, something sparks to life inside me, and I feel it. I feel it seeping through every heart in the galaxy. I feel their fear. Some sources shine so bright, so much brighter than others, and I understand what Sinestro meant about signal fires. He wasn't just telling me what I wanted to hear. This power is terrifying, but it doesn't overwhelm me. It's like exposure therapy. It makes me feel ready. Fear is a beacon, so I look for the closest source, and then she actually does feel something. So this is where we actually kind of tie back into what's going on with Oa, because she finds this ship that apparently is a ship that was escaping from Oa, like one of many other, like one of 100,000 fleeing the disaster at Oa. But then she's saying, but why is it going so fast? So she goes up and starts scanning it or whatever, but then she notices the ring scans differently than the Green Lantern one does. And then Sinestro decides to just go ahead, because if you will remember, Sinestro has this ability over all of the Yellow Lantern rings that he can just all of a sudden like take control of it, make a projection, and like talk to them and everything. So he's saying, like a spotlight casting shadows. And she says, Sinestro, how? He says, not now, Lantern Cruz. These people need your help. Radiation leak imminent. These overcautious engineers will never repair the manifold in time. The captain's cortisol levels rise by the second. His decision making is impaired, and his fear has spread among the passengers, inciting panic, which is making the hired security nervous. Mercenaries get itchy trigger fingers when they're nervous. These problems are ultimately secondary. If you extrapolate the ship's trajectory, you'll see, and then that's when she like cuts him off to say, "Oh my God, it's on a collision course with the moon, like Earth's moon." So yeah, maybe we need to do something about that. So then that's when she goes up to like the ship. She's going to talk to the captain or the pilot, whatever. She goes up to talk to him, and then we can see this chick who's coming up. She, as you can see, she's part of the like security force, and so Jessica comes up and starts talking to the captain, saying like, "Hey, listen up in there." He says, "Oh gods, please don't arrest us," because he's assuming she's a Green Lantern still. So the Sinestro is saying, "Feel his terror. See how it bends his spine. He cannot lead." So that's when she decides to tell him, "Captain, I'm relieving you of duty." He's like, "Wait, but," and he looks over at the chick who walked up. To which to her, Jessica says, "First officer, get your security team together and get this ship under control." So she immediately is just like, "All right, you heard the Lantern." And then Jessica says, "We can still save this ship. Don't panic." So she goes over to like the engineers or whatever who are working on fixing it, and then she's trying to get them like, one of you needs to get in there and reroute that leak. And the guy's saying like, "I can't go in there. I'll die." So Sinestro tells him, "Show him something that he fears more than death." And we don't actually see what it is that she shows to them, unfortunately. But apparently it did work because he's like, "Oh God, anything besides that." He was like, I'll go in there. I'd rather die in here." So he goes in, he's like, "I'm on it." And then the passengers inside are finding out that there are no escape pods, so basically they're pretty much doomed unless something happens. And then Jessica says if they don't start working together, the whole ship is going to fall apart. They don't understand. So Sinestro tells her, "Make them understand. Ignite the fear inside them, just enough to keep them warm, not to burn them. Unite them against the doom they seek to escape." So she's like, she realizes like, okay, it's working or whatever. But then all of a sudden she gets blasted from behind. She turns around to like, fight the threat. But as you can see, it's a green blast. So you already knew it was going to be Hal Jordan. So he comes in pretty damn hot and heavy. I'm not going to lie. Like, it does make sense, but he does come in very hot and heavy here because he comes in saying like, "Sorry, this is restricted airspace or whatever," and then they realize like who each other are. He says, "You made it. Oh, thank God we didn't lose you too." She says, "I made it to Oishia just before the battery. Lucky we still had that old sector house in orbit. I was stuck there for weeks without a way to contact the rest of the Corps." And he says, "I know the feeling." He says, "You ever hear of a lantern by the name of Joe Moline?" "Me neither. Her ring still works too. She's investigating what happened on Oa, alone, protecting the core." And that's the other thing. We still don't know why, particularly, like, their rings still work. Still not really sure. Like, we have no idea why, particularly, unless I'm missing something, why Hal's ring still works either. I don't know. I mean, literally all the other lanterns lost their powers except for just like a few of them. So I don't know. Anyway, he's saying, "I'm the failsafe. If whoever did this manages to take her out, there'll be somebody left to do something about it. That's what we're doing. My question is, what in the hell are you doing?" And this is where he starts getting a little too hot under the collar. Because he says, "When I heard the Sinestro Corps was terrorizing a refugee ship in my sector, I was ready to fight. I wasn't ready to get stabbed in the back." So she says, "I didn't exactly enlist Hal. They tried to take the station. I beat them. On my own with no ring. I beat them. I was willing to die fighting the Yellows." And that's fine. I kind of wish y'all would have showed us how she did that instead of just telling us like, "Yeah, they showed up. I didn't have a ring, and I took out three of them, including Sinestro's second in command, who handed me my ass after I was flying for a while." I don't know. I don't know how it happened. I don't know how it worked, but that's what we were told. So that's my only little gripe here was you could have showed us, even if it was just like a brief flashback interlude somehow, just show them fighting and then her like somehow getting the upper hand on them. I don't know, something. But anyway, she says, "I only picked up this damn thing to fly home, but by the time I got to New Corrigar, I was," and then he yells, "New Corrigar, good people, our people, are dying all over the galaxy, but you stop by and have yourself a job interview with Sinestro?" So she's like, "No, I just needed it to get home, but it's different now. I could feel these people were in trouble from parsecs away. I could feel their fear." And he's like, "Their fear. And you just couldn't help yourself, could you?" And as you can see, like from his body language, he is very, very upset. Like, my God, you need to calm down, sir. Anyway, he's like, or she says, "No, I wanted to help them. They weren't supposed to be on that course. They're on a new flight path. Why would they push the engines like that?" And that's where he's saying, like, maybe they're running scared. So he goes to check on it and he tells her, "It looks like you've done enough." So that's where we go back to this chick who's now in charge of the ship or whatever. And she's saying, keep that course steady. And then she's like, oh shit, another one. So he comes up to her, says, hey, looks like you're off course. Don't make me pull this thing over. And then she just tells him, like I was saying, she says, a Green Lantern, we heard your rings were dead. So yeah, even they know, like, all the rings are dead. So he's like, you heard wrong. Now alter your heading because even I think this trajectory is too risky. You can't just slingshot into Earth's orbit at this speed. The wrong gravitational shift and your passenger decks will get ripped to shreds. So she's like, ah, yes, Earth. That's what you're really worried about. It's your home world, isn't it, Lantern? But as the Galactic Conclave has noted, there are priorities in the galaxy beyond the Green Lanterns. We're not changing course just because you're nervous. So this is where Jessica finally starts piecing it together. She's like, wait, something's off here. Like, I use the passenger's fear, like Sinestro said. They should all be on the same page. Empathy, not control, unless someone else is already in control. So this is where she figures it out. Like, all right, yeah, they're in control, or like she's up to something like crooked here. So then, like, this chick is telling how, so unless you're planning on ripping open our airlock and putting more people at risk, because she's basically telling, like, we're not going to, like, do what you want. And then all of a sudden, her, like, second in command, I guess, comes running up and she says, ma'am, it's the command deck airlock. Someone just ripped it open. So here comes Jessica. And I do got to say, like, this is a very nice shot. Like, Jessica looks like a badass here. Beautiful, yet powerful. So she comes flying in and shit. And like Hal comes in right behind her, is like, what the hell are you doing? And she says, fixing my mistake. So she starts telling him, I never should have put this wannabe space pirate in charge. Actual help is the last thing you wanted, right, first officer? So she takes the actual captain or whatever, she takes him at gunpoint and she's telling them to like leave her alone and everything. And then Hal, because Jessica's basically ready to fire on her, and Hal, like, for whatever reason, decides to make a bow and arrow. Of all the things he could have made, he makes a bow and arrow. So he does that, and he says, damn it, no one's shooting anybody until I know what's going on here. If you make me, I won't miss. But then Jessica just tells her, like, if you'll hit, I'll hit her before you hit me, Hal. But apparently just knowing that was enough for her to be like, all right, fine, I give up. So they go and throw them all in lockup and everything. And then Jessica's kind of like piecing it together for Hal, where she says, the ship's captain was too fearful to lead, so I put the first officer in charge. Turns out she was exactly what he was afraid of. Mercenary thugs posing as hired security, strong arming the actual crew into helping them smuggle contraband. The escape pods are full of illicit goods. I bet they plan to bail out in the pods the moment the ship hit Earth's orbit. They'd get to sell the contraband on Earth either way, so it didn't matter if the passenger decks survived or not. So he just says they never should have come close to pulling off a scam like that. And she's telling him like, yeah, if the core were still together at full strength, they wouldn't have. So this is where they go off flying, and again we get a little bit of a contentious like back and forth, but it does end better here. Where he told her like, you fucked up. So like I said, and then he's like, but you're also the only reason thousands of refugees are still alive. So do I chew you out or give you a medal? And this is where we see her just looking at him like, So he's like, because I'd lean more toward the former, but you're not in my core anymore. And she says, when I put on this ring, I wasn't planning on keeping it. I was afraid to even use it. I was so scared of the damage I might cause with this kind of power, I couldn't imagine how much good I could do. So he's like, so what? You're the yellow lantern of the sector now, protecting our home through fear? And she says, I don't know if the Earth needs me right now. I'm the only one who can figure out where I'm needed and what I need to be. You're the one who needs to stay put. He's like, are you threatening me? She says, no, I'm trying to do my job, which in this case is reminding my former commander to do his. And this is where she tells him something that's very true. She says, no one will fight harder for home than you, Hal. But you can't do that if you waste all your willpower on a one-way trip to Oa. The rest of us will have to trust that Earth is in your capable hands. So you know what? I don't have like that much of a problem with that. Like Hal just kind of staying the terrestrial Green Lantern. All right, whatever. I can handle that. Like for one thing, I still think Earth has too many Green Lanterns. But I mean, if we're just gonna have just Hal basically on Earth all the time, all right, cool. So he says, so you're, and she says, I'm not sure. But she says, the whole universe feels vulnerable right now. But I know that this power is something I can use to help. I'm not naive enough to believe Sinestro will actually bring peace and empathy to the galaxy, but maybe I can. I hope you can understand that. And he's like, yeah, better than you think. So yeah, I mean, Hal, he's the one who's gone through, more with the whole fear thing than just about anybody else. But she says, trying not to think about that one. good luck, Lantern Jordan. He says, good luck, Lantern Cruz, and then he takes off back home. So this is where she kind of like she comes up with her own mission statement, I guess. But first, she decides like she's gonna go for a little bit of a flight. She asks, or the ring tells her she has reserves at 15%. She asks, I guess I really did go all out there. How far could that take me? It says approximately 3 days space flight. Nearest habitable world would be Earth. Distance approximately 5 minutes space flight. And she's like, wait, if I had a different destination in mind. So that's where, of course, she goes back to talk to Sinestro. And he's even telling her, like, yeah, I kind of hoped that you would come back sooner or later. He says, not that I put much stock in that particular emotion. And she says, let's cut all the arch crap, okay? And I was like, I hate when y'all, like, when a villain's just being a villain and then he's described as arch, it's just like, stop. Just stop. All right, just let the villain be a villain. We don't have to, like, call it out, but all right, at least it was real quick. She says, you knew exactly what you were doing sending me out there. You knew I'd be back. He says, yes, I knew from the first moment I saw that ring on your finger. You're a natural. She says, I'm never going to trust you. He says, only a fool would expect you to. Question my motives all you like, but you've already felt the simple truth behind them. Some madmen cannot be reasoned with. Some tyrants cannot be toppled. Some monsters cannot be slain. But all souls know fear. Join me and we shall make the worst of them remember. So she just kind of hesitates for a minute and she's like, I'm not going to swear your oath. And he just kind of holds up both hands. He's like, unsurprising, but it's not loyalty that will keep the universe in line. So she says, and if you turn out to be just another monster, Sinestro, I'll make you remember too. So she threatens him, and then Lissa Drac comes in or whatever. She's like, my, now how bright you shine, little lantern. So she's like telling her, like, calm that racing heart of yours. I have no desire to fight you again. Yours is a talent worth nurturing. I trust you'll be able to put aside past prejudices and work as sisters in arms. You are kindred spirits in a way, Sinestro tells him. And Lissa says, Sinestro's goals or yours mean little to me. My loyalties are pure, which has always kind of been Lissa's thing. She's always kind of like more in it for like the history, as you can see by the book that is still chained to her. She's more in it for that. And so, which I mean, I can relate. Anyway, so Jessica says, you actually said it best earlier. I feel fear now more than ever, she's thinking to herself. One candle at a time. So that's going to be like her thing going forward. So I guess, like I said, this is the thing going forward. Jessica Cruz as a Yellow Lantern. And like I said, at first I was like, why? Because I mean, we've had this whole thing of her being a Green Lantern for a while. But then when I thought back to it, I was like, well, she did start out with the whole power ring thing. And that did kind of feed off of her fear. So, I mean, I guess it makes sense because in a way, it does actually show, like, proper character progression for her in that she's actually learned not only just to feel fear and not only just to wield it, but how she can also use it in a different kind of way. Not so much in like the negative type of way, like the way that Sinestro and his other Yellow Lanterns tend to use it in somewhat of like a suppressive way. This is more her doing it in a different way, and I guess it's almost kind of more akin to like the that other one, although not really. The one that would take babies. Y'all remember that one from the Yellow Lantern Corps that takes babies and shit. I guess it's almost a little bit like that. Like each Yellow Lantern can kind of like use the fear, how they kind of view it. So I mean, I guess it works is what I'm saying. And on top of that, I mean, she's not a she's not a Green Lantern anymore. So okay. I mean, I was willing to accept what was it? Guy when he was a Red Lantern because I was like, well, yeah, he's usually pretty mad. And then they made him a Blue Lantern, right? So I was like, okay, I guess all right. But Jessica Cruz being a Yellow Lantern, even though at first I was a little bit questioning of it, I've I've come around to it and I'm fine with it because like I said, we had too many Green Lanterns anyway. So if she's going to be a Yellow Lantern and still just be Jessica Cruz, all right, at least it makes sense in the context of her character. So this was a good story. I enjoyed it. We'll see what comes from whatever this is. I don't know if we're actually going to get anything more from Jessica Cruz like moving forward. We haven't really had anything from her until this. So I mean, I don't know if she's going to become a more prominent like figure in the actual Green Lantern series or whatever. I guess we'll see, but yeah, that I'll take it. We haven't really had like a Yellow Lantern that was like a hero, so I guess Jessica can be that one, and it works for her. Like it looks pretty cool, like her in just like the Yellow Lantern costume. So I don't know. We'll see what comes from that. But yeah, if anybody out there read this particular issue, this annual, which was pretty thick, I'm not gonna lie. I guess it was actually kind of worth the price point. I mean, it was a good story. It's very self-contained, and then it's a pretty thick book. So I mean, I guess it was worth it to some extent. But there were still like some little moments in there that I had my gripes. But let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. And hopefully I can learn to talk for the rest of this video. But anyway, yeah, that's going to do it for my review on this book. So if you enjoyed this video, then definitely like the video. Make sure you're subscribed and share the video if you would like. But if you're done here, then go and read a book, possibly this one. And if not, then I'll see you on my next video.